Today, I want to show you our Frazer Nash, which is where also the name Wriggly Monkey comes from. So I'm going to open a beer, so we've got something to sort of have while we talk about it. So Frazer Nash, small British manufacturer. These cars were built in Isleworth near London, and they made about 370 of them. This is a 1930 sort of 233 example, fitted with a 1938 engine. They were a small British sports car, 2 seats, leaf springs at the front, leaf springs at the back, quarter elliptical on each. Got quite a groovy sort of setup on the front with the axle suspended right out the front of the car, which gets the weight really far back, which is good and bad for different reasons. Shock absorbers underneath that hold all the axle in position, and sort of classic sort of 30s car really. Radiator out front, cycle wings on the side, they're sort of mostly attached, and 2 Bosch headlights. Big drum brakes that are operated by these Perro shafts, so it's all done by cables and rods. So this is the rod that actually drives the brakes. Twin shoe, 19-inch wheels, and this we're currently running on a Longstone tyre, which we find really fun on the road. It sort of gives it a real good sort of movement on the road and lets it slide around a bit. But this is a car sort of quite typical of the cars that were raced in period. The beauty of this era is they're sort of very usable on the road as well. Now this is a slightly hot-rodded car, slightly hot-rodded Frazer Nash. And it's actually fitted with a BMW engine, which you can see here. Have a quick swig of beer. But this is a 1938 BMW engine. As you can see here, it's an OZ80 is the type. And if you just look down here, you can see BMW cast on the block down there. It's a 6-cylinder, 2 litre. This engine would have been fitted to a Frazer Nash BMW 328 or a BMW 328. So there's a link with Frazer Nash, which is why it's such a good engine for this car. Triple Solex is on top. It's an overhead valve engine, one of the most modern feeling pre-war engines that I've ever driven. It's a real revvy engine, likes to rev right up to sort of nearly 7,000 RPM. And basically this became a Bristol engine after the war. This one is running in sort of high road spec. So it's running about 160 to 170 horsepower, which for a car that weighs sort of 650, 700 kilos, it really shifts. Very primitive sort of Frazer Nash setup. You've got your steering box here, that's connected direct to the steering wheel. Moves this arm down here to actually move the steering back and forth. It's actually made of an old cycle car transmission originally. So this engine's in kind of fast road trim really. About 160 to 170 horsepower. I think it was about 167 on the dyno. Every dyno is slightly different though. And the car weighs about 767, 70 kilos. So it's actually blisteringly quick. It's not far off a Porsche Boxster in terms of power to weight ratio. So you've got your triple Solexes on top, throttle linkage on the side. That runs through this fantastic little setup down here where the throttle pedal is effectively just a rod that comes out and operates it all. The car itself, really easy to drive. Steering is about 3/4 of a turn lock to lock, so it's really fast steering, which means that you can catch a slide or a moment quite easily. So when you're on full tilt, you can grab it really quickly. If you come around here, we can look at the sort of the dashboard and everything. I'll go around this side of the car. It's one of the beauties of this car is a really sort of versatile car. So it's currently in kind of like racing trim. We've got the screen folded down, you've got your aero screens on. It looks really cool, but actually when it rains pouring down on the way back from the race meeting, you just pop the screen up and you tuck in behind it and you can sit on the motorway and it's quite comfortable and gets you going. You say if you look inside, pretty standard setup. It's a bit funny, but you know, standard brake, throttle, clutch is exactly as you would imagine on a normal car. Your brake pedal's tucked in up here, got your clutch pedal here and throttle pedal down there. And then the back, really, there's a bit of space for luggage. You know, dials, speedo doesn't really work, that one at the moment. They keep snapping the cable, so I've got to do something around that. This is your key. It's actually an old tractor key that we've modified to work at the moment. You push it in to turn the ignition on, pull it out to turn it off. That's your dip switch for when you're driving along. Indicators, and actually the key you turn and that turns your lights on and back off again. As I say, really quick steering. And the main one for us, it's quite a hot engine, but the pressure gauge, oil pressure gauge, which anyone that is used to driving silly old cars will know that's the sort of key thing to look for. As I say, fits two of you quite comfortably, this car. I've got virtually no padding on my seat. In fact, I take that out when I go racing. It just feels like I can get a bit lower in the car and tuck in behind the aero screens. Big comfy one for the passenger. And yeah, fire extinguisher. That's kind of the main bits of that. You've got a boot at the back. It's quite small, so you can't get much in there. Brakes at the back, very similar to the front. Just some drum brakes. They're operated by cables that run down here, so that foot brake is actually connected to this bar here. And if I lean inside and press the brake pedal lightly, you'll start to see that moving. So as you press the pedal, it pulls all the rods, and that sort of operates your brakes. You've got your handbrake on the outside, great for doing handbrake turns, and your gear lever. Gears are all on the outside of this, so you've got out and forwards is first, and in and back is fourth. Reverse, you've got a little gate to stop you getting it by accident, but you come all the way back out and backwards. And then yeah, at the back, very simple really, big petrol tank, really useful for touring. You get about 300 miles out of it. It's relatively frugal, so it means you can fill it up in the morning and get a good sort of 200 miles under your belt for lunch, stop in the afternoon and get to your campsite in the afternoon. But the really exciting thing about the Frazer Nash and where the name comes from is underneath. So I'm going to take all the interior out very quickly and show you what it's all about and what a Wriggly Monkey is. Right, it is that easy. I've actually taken the tools out, so it was a bit easier. We normally have a tool tray in here. You have to carry quite a few tools with this. But this is what makes a Frazer Nash different. They're chain driven. So as you can see here, this is your back axle. It connects directly to your wheels. There's no differential, so when you're going around corners, the inside wheel's always trying to scrub. And you've got different sprocket ratios for each gear. So this is first gear, this is second gear, third gear and fourth gear. So you sit on top of first and second in this car. You've got a little chain down here, which you can probably just about see, which is a reverse idler chain that allows you to have reverse gear. I'll explain that in a moment. This is a mod that we've done. What we found is we had too much power in this car. It's running a lot more power than it should have. And as you accelerate hard hill climbing, the back axle tries to come forwards and you bend the arms that hold the back axle straight. So this just puts a bit of transmission support in. There's a bearing that runs in here and it stops your back axle coming forwards. It's quite a popular mod with the fast Frazer Nashes. Now, this is the bit that's really interesting. And if anyone's been to a scramble when I've had the floorboards out of this, this is a Wriggly Monkey. So this bit here that sits on top. Now, the Wriggly Monkey is designed to stop you getting two gears at the same time. If you get two gears at the same time, all of this mechanism locks up and just explodes effectively. If you're lucky, it explodes. If you're unlucky, it explodes and hits you in the bum at the same time. The drive comes straight out of the back of the engine here. I'll take another floorboard out, not that it gives you much more visibility. Effectively it comes straight out the back of the transmission. The gearbox on the BMW would have sat here. We've put a bearing in here and just a prop shaft straight to our bevel box. Now if I come round the other side, do a bit of camera swapping, I'll explain a little bit more about how the bevel box works. So there's a shaft that runs through here called a counter shaft. That's always spinning when the engine's spinning. And what you've got is these things in here, which you can probably just about see, that sit underneath these bell cranks, is called a double dog. Now the double dog has got these teeth that engage with this sprocket in here. So these teeth slide across. You can see you always get oily when you work on a Frazer Nash. And basically, that is always spinning and is always connected to a keyway on the counter shaft. And you engage the sprocket that you want to drive the back axle, and all the other gears are spinning. And what happens, if I can get to the gear lever here, see if we can find a gear. I might have to roll the car forwards a little bit. So if I go into first gear, which is just engaged now, so this double dog here has moved over, it's engaged that gear, that's gone slack at the bottom because we're on a slight downhill, it's taut at the bottom, all the other chains are loose. What's happened is the Wriggly Monkey's twisted this bit here on top of your bell crank, your selector, has twisted the Wriggly Monkey round, and it's locked this gear selector in position so it can't move. If I take it out of first gear, you'll see the Wriggly Monkey move across, and if I roll it into second gear now, oh, if we can find the second gear, I might have to go backwards a bit. There we go. It's done exactly the same. It's now sat on the opposite side of the bevel box, and it's locked the other gear in position. So that's how the Wriggly Monkey works, and how it fixes what gear you're in. So I mean, that's about it really for a Frazer Nash. I'm covered in oil now, which is typical of an outing to the Frazer Nash, whether it's working or not. That's how it works. Fire some questions across if there's anything else we can show you. Cheers. Hope you're having a good day.